Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation. I'm Jeff, and today on episode 135, we're taking a look at every indie game hitting the Nintendo Switch through the week ending February 6th. You can find Nindie Nation on Twitter, come hang out with us on Discord where we're playing through Freedom Planet, or check out the week's new releases with us right here on YouTube every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern during our Nindies at Night stream. After a couple wild weeks with a ridiculous amount of games, I'm happy to report that we're mostly back in the regular Nindie Nation groove. So to kick off episode 135, let's start with the 6 Neglected Nindies that released since episode 134. The first game that released out of nowhere since last week's episode is clearly a labor of love that I'm really excited to check out. Serin Fate is a fantasy RPG that takes cues from across the genre's 16 and 32-bit entries we all know and love. The developer Vethergen built this game with an incredible amount of ambition. There's a sprawling, epic quest about magic and good versus evil, crafting, life simulation stuff, and all of the other action RPG goodies that you'd expect. I'm not sure yet if I'll be trying this one, as it's kinda hard to just dip your toe into an RPG, and I'm still in the middle of my latest replay of Final Fantasy IV, but if you're jonesing for some RPG goodness, Serin Fate is available for $19.99. Gametree, a publisher I can't say I've ever been impressed by, released a stealth-based samurai game called Shadow Samurai Revenge for $3.99.
Arashi's son was kidnapped, and his wife was killed by an evil demon.
Psh, why don't you whine a little more? Jeez. I do like the art direction here, using shadows in the same way a few levels did in Donkey Kong Country Returns. It's certainly a neat style. For $4, it might be worth a shot. And then Pancake Games released Luminos for $4.99, which appears to be some kind of janky little platformer where you play as a colorful fart cloud. And then Digital Game Group released Pixel Jumper for $7.99, which appears to be some kinda... You know, I swear, you could tell me that this is the first or the 71st entry in a series, and I'd believe you. And then Ultimate Games released Broken Blades for $3.99, which appears to be some kind of janky action platformer where you play as a derpy knight. Now, I don't recommend this one, but I am contractually obligated to inform you that Broken Blades includes procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! And then, no ending! After a few weeks of wondering, maybe he's actually gone. Just like one of those YouTube families who force their kids to act happy in videos, crushing their souls for short-term financial gain, Benjamin Kistler has returned with colors and numbers. As usual, good old BK serves as a reminder that open publishing is great for independent creators, but even better for psychopaths who just want to watch the world burn. Any RPG fans gonna give Serin Fate a shot? I'll put it on my wish list, and I'm somewhat curious about Shadow Samurai too. Let me know if any of the Neglected Nindies jive your turkey, and let's dive right in to the 16 new releases hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, February 6th. On Monday, January 31st, the lone release is Treasure Hunter Man 2, dropping for $1.99 by Origami Hero Games. He's been releasing a lot of his older titles on the Switch recently, and they've definitely been a hit-or-miss thing for me. This one is a little Metroidvania with equal parts action, platforming, and puzzle solving. For $2, you could probably do worse. Nindie newcomer Hebby Lee publishes their first title on Tuesday the 1st, and it's a spooky Zelda clone built around the confines of the Game Boy Color. Charon's Crypt, Even Death May Die, certainly leans into its inspiration, but the horror vibe and presentation do a lot to set it apart. Plus, it seems a little more open-ended than what we'd typically see in this style. It launches for $15 with a pre-order discount of $12.70, but that's a little too pricey for me to take a chance on, so we'll wait and see how the reviews pan out. Top Hat Studios publishes a little 8-bit shooter that reminds me of the Bleed series with their $5 title called
GUNGUNGUN!
At first I dismissed it, but the closer I looked, this could be pretty fun. Seems like it's built around horde mode combat, where you just knock out waves of enemies in a variety of settings using whatever weapons you have at your disposal. It also seems to have a good deal of content, with a bunch of guns that each have their own upgrade path and 9 different arenas with co-op to boot. Maybe we'll give this one a go on Nindies at Night this week. And kicking things off on Wednesday, February 2nd, Snug Games delivers a promising 2D adventure where you play as a spider in Webbed for $17.99. The charm in this game is undeniable, and the physics look to make a fun swinging mechanic too. It's a bit hard to tell just how big the game is, and I'm still not exactly sure what you do, but I think a general action-adventure label makes sense here. $17.99 also feels a little too high based on my impressions alone, but as with most promising games on the higher end of the fiscal spectrum, let's see how the reviews pan out. Isaias Game Dev is back with, as far as I'm concerned, the exact same chill puzzle game they released just a couple of weeks ago. It's called Invert, it's $2, and I can't tell any of these games apart anymore. Can you? Hey, you like roaming around a forest by yourself looking for things to click on? Of course you do, and East Asia Soft knows it. In The Dead Tree of Ranchiuna, developer Tongok Bador tells the story of a dude who returns to his hometown to find it empty and then goes on an adventure to figure out what happened. It is very pretty, I'll give it that, and $10 isn't asking too much. Not for me, but hey, at one point you get to ride an elephant, and that has to count for something. We've still got a bunch of games to get through on Thursday and Friday, but let's make a quick pit stop to point and laugh at the eShop dumpster fire that is this week's Nindie No-Nos. What better way to start than with pig farts? They put a ball inside of a Windows 95 screensaver and called it Frog Ball Re-Rolled. And then they ported a mobile game where you watch a ball sit on water and press A when it disappears. The tagline for Mania Fish asks,
Does it bite?
And while I'm not sure if it bites, I am pretty confident that it sucks. And rounding out the PixArts hat trick of shame, Jumping Helix Ball is a game that's already been released under 2 different names. It was terrible then, and I'm sure it's terrible now. But
STP Works
came in and was like, hold my beer, with Food Delivery Battle. Take the concept of Crazy Taxi, remove everything good about it, and then put it on the PS1, and you're on the right track. Want to hear a bunch of words thrown together? Developer
Nami Tentu Mushi
releases
Yeah Beavis 2.
the quote, sequel to a game considered as lost media. It's some 8-bit riff on Wrecking Crew or something. Asylum Square Interactive ported Pirates Gold, which is a name shared by no less than 4 other games dating back to 1993. And after looking through them, this janky puzzle game should be the last one you consider. And speaking of pirates, Hook Games
See what I did there?
wants you to spend money to f around with a calculator and Math Gem. If you want a quick demo, grab your calculator and solve 16,930 minus 15,796. And then turn your calculator upside down to learn the place I would rather go than give any of my money to Hook Games. On Thursday, February 3rd, we've got 6 new digital drops. Anyone notice we don't really get the big Thursday drop anymore? It just kinda gets spread out throughout the whole week now. Anyways, the teams at Karusan Games, Waka Waka Games, and Chorus Worldwide Games want you to play God in the 100-Year Kingdom when it launches for $12.99. In a mostly empty world, you and a bunch of young anime goddesses pick items from a menu and plop them on a grid to create a civilization from the ground up. I guess it might be relaxing, but I don't know about this one. But I do know that while the audience may be niche, they are very vocal about their love for Frogware's Sherlock Holmes series. This week for $25.49, you can get in on the whodunit action with Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments and see what all the fuss is about. These beloved mysteries combine a thick narrative you direct via moral decision trees with interrogations and crime scene investigations. You get 6 stories to solve in this title, and if you haven't already noticed, these games can deliver pretty stunning visuals. If you're looking for a quirky, bite-sized adventure that you can enjoy on your own or with your family, consider HitSynth's port of 2012's Draw a Stickman Epic when it hits the eShop for $6.99. Similar to the Scribblenauts series, this is a puzzle adventure where you follow prompts to draw things that get you past a variety of obstacles. Whether you're an artiste or can barely hold a pencil, the game is fun either way. It released nearly 10 years ago as a very early Wii U title and has seen a couple of successful sequels since. At $6.99, you're only going to get a couple hours out of it, but if it sounds like a good time, throw it on your wish list. Developer Spiky Zone has a clever-looking release this week that blends ninjas, breakout, and maybe a little bit of shoot-'em-up influence into their $12 title, Super Shadow Break
Showdown!
Ninja versus
The Three
Kaijus!
Grammar, punctuation, and caps lock aside, I think this one looks pretty fun. The music in the trailer does kinda make my ears bleed, but the gameplay with breakout for the levels and shmup-based bosses sounds like a pretty cool mix. $12 does sound like a bit much though, so unless I hear it's gonna change my life, I'll probably put it on the back burner and wait for a sale. In Greek mythology, Phlegethon is one of the 5 rivers that flow through Hades. On the eShop, Phlegethon is a first-person shooter based in every way around the B-tier entries you'd expect from the genre from the early to mid-90s. Now, the last couple games from Random Spin Games were prominently featured in last week's Nindie No-Nos, so I'm not getting my hopes up here, but I'm kinda digging the old janky vibes this game is throwing out there. It releases for $7.99, and I doubt I'll pick it up at launch, but hey, if I get a code, maybe we can mess around with it during Nindies at Night. Anyone else interested in this one? And then the masters of Caps Lock, developer
Cavi House!
and publisher
Playism!
release The Sealed Ampule for $17.99. This one is very hard to explain, but it does seem interesting, so I'll let them do the talking.
The Sealed Ampule is a dungeon agriculturalization roguelike game, combining elements of dungeon exploration and clicker-style gameplay. Level up not only your character, but your dungeon itself to score a huge bumper groups of items and magic circles galore.
Well, I'm not sure how much that description helped, but you play as an alchemist who explores dungeons and you battle monsters on a turn-based grid. Collect their loot, then head back home where you craft things to change your dungeon and wash, rinse, repeat. It's mostly received mediocre reviews on other platforms, but it delivers something original, and I think that's at least worth considering. Oh, and of course it includes a procedurally generated dungeon,
That you can craft as you please.
roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! We round out the week on Friday the 4th with 4 more Nindies, and the first one up is a cheap, story-driven adventure with a premise that is a bit on the nose. Land of Screens employs a lovely art style akin to a more cheerful version of Night in the Woods, and is a similar conversation-driven game where the main character, Holland, has just gone through a nasty breakup and decides to ditch her screens and rekindle her personal relationships. As long as she can get everyone else to put their damn phone down for a minute and engage in conversation. It's developed and published by Serenity Forge and Way Down Deep, whose recent releases include Doki Doki Literature Club, Date Night Bowling, Half Past Fate, and Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. So, if you're a fan of any of their back catalog, it's safe to assume that at only $5.39, Land of Secrets should deliver the goods. And as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow, we've got another retro-inspired puzzle platformer. This one is Millie and Molly and releases by way of Thalamus Digital for $2.49. Set across 100 levels, your goal is to reunite the sisters in each puzzle by using any manner of 2D puzzle game tropes. And if, like me, you suck at these games, there's a handy rewind feature at your disposal too. And as sure as the sun will set tomorrow, we've got another retro-inspired 2D platformer. This one is Alexio from Duck Team and Chili Dog Interactive. And for $5, you can traverse all kinds of levels, collect coins and keys, and reach the exit, but this time, you're a duck. Last up this week, Pixel Noir Games delivers Ratalaika's weekly release with The Song Out of Space, a visual novel mystery that is basically the X-Files. You play as either the smart young woman who's new to the Force, or the grizzled veteran who knows when to trust his instinct. With a Cold War setting where you try to uncover what happened to 12 astronomers in a deep space observatory, the setup is cool, but the visuals are what really stand out. It's pixel art, but it's fused with photography. Kinda like the digitized fighters in Mortal Kombat, but a generation or two older. It's pretty cool and certainly unique. At the usual $4.99, it might be the slight change-up you've been looking for as you quench your thirst for another narrative adventure. What do you think? Pretty middle-of-the-road week if you ask me, but I can see promise in
GUNGUNGUN!
Serin Fate, Webbed, and that breakout ninja game with way too many words in the title. Head down to the comments and let me know if there's anything you're interested in, or if you want to see any of these on Nindies at Night. Now, before we go today, I gotta say, the eShop is feeling pretty sleepy as far as the deals go, which I think is because we've got an indie world coming up pretty soon. Either way, there's still a few great games to consider, and quite a few that are super cheap if you just need something to tide you over for a bit. These are our picks for the 8 Nindies on sale at their lowest prices ever, through at least February 9th. I took a chance on one last game to play through as 2020 wrapped up, and boy was I glad I did, as Foregone is a beautiful action platformer that puts a neat spin on the formula. The game feels a lot like Dead Cells, with fast, fluid combat and platforming that is super satisfying, but then it mixes it with a mostly linear structure that allows for light exploration and grinding as needed. Foregone will take around 7 hours to complete and includes a very interesting story to boot. Check it out while it's 75% off for $4.99. A Nindie trifecta we've recommended a bunch on the channel. I like to say that Neurovoider is one of my favorite entries that does pretty much everything by the books. You control a mech, explore randomized worlds, blow things up in a top-down perspective, and when you fall, you unlock new abilities and go at it again. It won't blow you away, but it's still a great game, well worth the 70% off price of $4.19. And of course, it includes procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! If you happen to be a fan of rhythm games, or you happen to be a fan of any kind of classic gaming, or both, Old School Musical is a delightful musical romp through the history of video games, and includes one of the best, most nostalgic indie soundtracks you'll find. I even used music from it just last week. You know, more people should play Old School Musical, and with a 60% discount, maybe it's time for you to dive in while it's $5.19. You know by now that I don't pay much attention to visual novels or narrative mysteries, so it's all the more noteworthy when the scuttlebutt is so loud that even I know Paradise Killer is one of the best. As a first-person open-world murder mystery, you follow a bunch of anime tropes through a futuristic story where a bunch of maniacs are trying to resurrect alien gods. If you enjoy games like Phoenix Wright or others that have you searching around crime scenes for clues and solving a mystery, maybe give this one a shot while Paradise Killer is 35% off for $12.99. The rest of today's titles are all around $2, so take stock of your gold coins and don't hesitate if one of these speaks to you. The Framed Collection is one of those puzzle games where you have to guide a character across sliding frames, kinda looking like a comic book. This one in particular also manages to tell a compelling noir spy story and has fantastic pacing and presentation across both of the included games. It'll only take about 3 hours to complete, but for $1.99, I don't think you can really go wrong. And did you know that before the SteamWorld series blew up, way back in 2012, Image & Form released a real-time strategy game for iPhone, all based around an ant colony? Ant Hill was ported to the Switch a couple years ago, and when I played it, I fell in love with its quirky but simple approach to the RTS formula. It doesn't reach the heights of a SteamWorld game, that's for sure, but for $2.49, I don't think it has to. Talk about judging a book by its cover. In late 2020, I completely dismissed Juiced because of its primitive visuals, but after Mike at Nindie Nexus wouldn't shut up about it, I grabbed it on sale and realized why I loved it so much. If you're looking for the definition of a hidden gem, it's this game right here. It's not perfect, but I guarantee that if you pick it up, you'll constantly find yourself amazed by the scope and ambition on display. It's an action platformer with over 10 hours of content and a ton of post-game unlockables, all wrapped around a surprisingly fleshed out world. If you can't decide on what you want to get this week, pick up Juiced while it's 60% off for just $1.99. And if you look at Juiced and think,
That looks fine, but if I'm spending $2, I want some action!
then look no further than Savage Halloween, a game we played last year on Nindies at Nite. I guess you'd call it a run-and-gun type game, but it pulls influence from all sorts of classic titles, most notably Mega Man and Contra, especially when it comes to the difficulty. It is very fun, and it's constantly giving you new mechanics to play with, even changing genres for the occasional shmup stage. You'll get a solid 5 hours or more out of Savage Halloween, again with a bunch of unlockables to play with if you still want more. With a 60% discount, it is an easy recommendation for $1.99. Yeah, we got a little bit of everything in the deals this week, and a couple in there that I bet a lot of you haven't played, specifically Foregone and Anthill. Call this the Hidden Nindies list or something. Oof, that's a bad name. We can do better. Hey, someone give me a good name for a hidden Nindie gem, and I'll give a free game to my favorite entry. Bonus points for alliteration. And let's keep the conversation going. Find us on Twitter at Nindie Nation, and better yet, come hang out with the citizens of Nindie Nation over on Discord, where we've got a great group of people over there, and we'd love to have you as well. Don't forget to chat about your experience playing through Freedom Planet, as we're discussing that throughout the month of February over in the Backlog Club channel. And if you haven't seen it yet, please go check out our Best Nindies of 2021 video. Nindies at Night is happening as usual this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern, but I have no idea what we're gonna play, so let me know if something's been on your radar. I've also got another batch of codes for some recent releases that I plan to give out, so stop by and hang out for a bit if you want a chance to win one. In the coming episodes, we'll see the release of Ollie Ollie World, Breakout Recharged, and Infernax, and I can't wait to check all of those out with you and more. But that's all for next week, citizens, and we're all done for today. Thanks so much for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing Nindie Nation with others. Until next week, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 135, and remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.